Call the Washington County Board of Supervisors Executive Committee meeting to order. I'll read the affidavit of posting to begin. This agenda was posted in the Office of County Clerk on the 11th day of August 2021. Notice was sent to the West Bend Daily News, Express News, WIBD, WNBC Radio, WTKM Radio, My Community Now, Hartford Times Press, Kiosk and Statesman, and the Milwaukee Journal Sentinel. We have a quorum. Everyone is here. Do we have anybody on Zoom? Tim Mahalik is trying to get on Zoom. Begin with the consent agenda, which includes what? Oh, I am sorry. Pledge of allegiance. Thank you. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you for that. First order of business is consent agenda. Entertain a motion to accept. Supervisor Schleif, Supervisor Bossert. Any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor, signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? Moving on to discussion items. We'll begin with the update on current county board and committee meeting video streaming. That will be Scott Schmidt. Sorry, I get you quick. Too quick for you? Good turn on. He's still flashing. There you go.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Ashley Reichert, our clerk, is on the Zoom as well, or should be, and she could possibly explain this better. But it looks like Washington County is terminating its. So we're doing number B, right? First.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
Is terminating its contract with the West Bend TV through the TVs. I don't know if you want to speak more to that, Don.
Yeah, we're actually, Mary, would you like to speak to that?
Sorry, the West Bend TV contract has been canceled. We discussed that at the last meeting. After the last meeting, they're no longer coming to the county board meetings to video because we've got the live stream that we're doing. And they were not on our website any longer. So they were like $56 an hour. And so they were not budgeted for next year. So that's no longer an option on the table because they didn't have the capability to do the other things that we needed them to do. So we're basically paying for them to come in, record, put it onto their website while we were recording our own, putting it on our website.
Put me on. You talked about that kind of in general terms last meeting. I think we kind of came to an agreement that what we have with our YouTube station is sufficient for going forward. So, and it saves the county board budget about $5,500 for the rest. Is that for the rest of the year, Mary, or is that just for next year? So
I think for the rest of this year, it'll save us close to $2,400. And then the savings next year will be $5,500 for the year.
Thank you. Okay. Anything else on that one, Scott? All right, back to the community development block grant remodeling audio visual update.
So I'm not sure if Ashley's available to speak online.
Yep.
She's been,
I'm here.
doing
Can
some
you hear
research
me?
on this. Okay, she's there. She just can't see her. Okay.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. All right. So I can take this one, Scott, if you'd like. You should have all seen the Swagit proposal. This is an updated version from a few years ago, and then changing everything to the county boardroom and removing 2024 as a needed option. So you'll have, I believe it's pages 1 through 13 in your packet that you can review. And then on the final page, there are options that I'm hoping you were able to take a look at. I did email those out earlier today as well, where you can see their references, so actually see it in action, and the quality of streaming that they're provided through Swagit. Costs are quite a bit more expensive, so I guess we are just looking to see if you wanted something of that extent as far as recording, or if you were content with what we currently are utilizing, or if you wanted to move forward with additional cameras in the boardroom and adjusting where those are located with the change in layout in the room. So we're just kind of looking for what the board or executive committee would like to have done as far as recordings moving forward. And I can provide some of the cost updates as well if you're interested in those. There are upfront costs that are close to $44,000 for all of the technology that would be required to have the recording. We will have additional costs to add additional cameras, but at this point we do have 2 cameras that you should consider in your decision-making process that are already in our boardroom. And then there are costs to have the service. One positive item that would be included with Swagit that wouldn't be included with what we're currently doing is that they'll be able to index the meetings for us and include those in Novus Agenda. So those individuals that are looking at our website for the meetings in the minutes will be able to toggle through the actual agenda and then also right at that same point look at the portion of video that correlates with the agenda item. But cost yearly, if Swagit did everything for us, which would include 75 meetings, which is every single committee meeting, extra special meetings, we had kind of estimated it above what we thought would be a normal year, just to be on the safe side. With our estimate request would be $15,000 roughly to have county staff directing cameras during the meetings, and then Swagit doing all of the indexing would be that was the $15,000, and then Swagit doing everything, I apologize, is $24,000. And then if Washington County were to do all of the cameras and indexing, it would be $7,800 per year. But that would again include every single meeting. So not just county board, which was what we were paying for with Westland Community TV. It would be all of the committee meetings and any special meetings that we needed to have recorded in the boardroom. So I'm happy to answer any questions you have, or if Scott can answer any, or if IT is present as well. They received the quote too.
Any questions? Comments? No. Supervisor Killing.
How difficult would it be, Ashley, to have our people running the cameras themselves? I mean, they're already currently doing that, correct?
So as of right now, our staff is running 2 cameras, and like if you are watching the YouTube videos, you can see it's not ever directed straight to the person that's speaking. It's more of a wide view of the room, with the occasional zooming into the like a guest speaker that would be standing at the podium, or the county executive. So I don't feel like our staff would be able to provide necessarily with the camera system we currently have operating 4 different cameras. However, I'm not sure how the Swagit system would work if we were to run those, if it's easier. I'm not sure if it's set based on seat, if it automatically zooms into that, because I know that is an option. So I guess I would have to look into that further. But with how we currently have our cameras set up, I don't feel like we would be able to have, specifically at the county board meeting, just 2 individuals staffing the meeting, because we have someone running all of the voting system, and then we also have someone doing all of the minutes. So to have someone doing all 3 of those, or someone doing 2 of the items, and then someone else running the cameras, it just wouldn't work. We would have to have an additional person doing that.
Okay, and
At
index.
least for the board.
Okay, and on indexing, I'm not clear as to what exactly they mean by indexing. Could you kind of give me a little bit of a?
So you're basically time stamping the meeting.
Oh,
So
okay.
you'd have to go through the meeting and then you time stamp everything.
Okay, that makes sense. All right, so if we went with the whole system, what was the cost on that again?
The hardware itself, I believe, was 44,000. And then the actual cost to have Swagit run everything and index everything would be 24,000 roughly.
24 a year, and I would imagine
Yeah.
the equipment itself would probably be good for at least a few years.
Yeah, that I'm not certain on how long the technology aspect of it would last, as technology changes every year, as you know. But I mean,
Right.
the cameras that we currently have been installed since, I believe it was either 2018 or 2019.
Okay, but I mean, and that would be equipment that we're actually purchasing, not leasing, correct?
Yes, no purchasing, yeah.
Okay, and do they offer any leasing or a program where we might get upgraded cheaper or anything like that?
Not that I'm aware of, but I can check into that for you if you'd like.
Okay, because sometimes, there might be a little bit more upfront cost on the monthly, but you might end up actually saving money where they automatically upgrade you, and so you're not laying out for brand new equipment. So you experience that every day with like satellite TV and stuff. They'll actually upgrade you, but it does cost a little bit more per month, but less upfront costs. Okay, that's all I have. Thank you.
Yep.
Supervisor Mahalik? Unmute. Supervisor Mahalik.
Okay.
you got-
Yes, I got it. Technology takes a little bit on this time because my internet was down. Now it's back up. So thank you very much for your patience. As you know, in Hartford, we do have a pretty fancy system that we set up because we believe that the importance of communication with the electorate with our constituents is incredibly important. And I mean, we're not talking hundreds of thousands of dollars here. We're talking the money it takes to run the meeting so everybody has the ability to see what's going on. Transparency has a cost. I think people understand that. I think this is very reasonable cost. We hire somebody. We actually have somebody that comes in and runs our system because we want it to be done professionally. I appreciate the fact that we've had individuals do it, but you could practically get a seizure by watching ours with the camera swinging back and forth. It's been tiresome at best. In the county and in the city, we fixed that years ago. We ran with the cameras that we had before, and we did have a multiple camera system for a decade. We're buying it, and we set it up. Lease system is okay, but one has to understand too that a camera that was big enough to sit on your shoulder did a much lower resolution and was ridiculous and had a big cassette tape, and it cost $7,000. Now you can get something that does 5 times better on your phone for under $1,000 on your phone. The little handheld that I have, which is HD, oh my gosh type of thing, was only about $650. The one thing about technology is not only does it get better, it also gets cheaper. So I don't necessarily know that it makes a phenomenal amount of sense to go from a leasing program, because normally the price on this stuff is dropping. It would have cost you over $100,000 to set up a video room like we're going to be setting up for 24. So I'm for moving ahead in this. I read through it. It makes a lot of sense. I think it's going to give us everything that we need. Again, from a constituency perspective, that to me is what is important. And it's an expectation now. Let's look professional. Thank you.
Supervisor Mary?
Question for Ashley. Well, we mentioned a 2 or 3 year lifespan. Is there a service contract available for this product?
I believe there would be, but we'd have to take a look closer at the terms of the contract.
Thank you.
Supervisor Schleif?
Also for Ashley,
when you initially look at the cost, it's like 24,000. It's a lot of money, more than we're paying now, but compare apples to apples, now we're just taping the county board meeting, and this is going to include all the committee meetings. So the cost isn't that far out of whack, I believe. Is that correct?
Yes, that is correct. And that's what we had noticed when we actually started looking at Swagit, when we first did the technology upgrades in the boardroom. And that was even with having a separate camera system in 2024 when committee meetings were still being held there. So this is actually a better value to have them running everything for the county potentially versus, I believe when we first looked into it, it was 2024 would be run by us and then the board meeting would be run by them. So yes, overall, this would be 75 meetings a year versus 12.
Thank you. In that case, I agree with Supervisor Mahalik. I think we should improve our communications, and we're going to have a nice spiffy new roof. We might as well improve the whole program.
Any Supervisor Bossert or Supervisor?
Yeah, I'll weigh in favor of this as well. I think it's a nominal cost. And I think the transparency to our constituents, not all of them can necessarily be here for a specific meeting. Being transparent like that, I think is worth that expense. Thank you.
Supervisor Dice just says thumbs up. Okay. Okay, I think you have a consensus that we move ahead with the Chevrolet version, right? We're not looking at a Mercedes, we're looking at a Chevrolet,
Right.
you know, so.
Yes, thank you for that. And thank you, Ashley, for doing that research and being able to be online with us today. The other issue is, so we do have, the architect is working on the plans. You saw the concept and the kind of fly through last month. So next month, you'll see the more detailed plans of the room coming your way. So there's no more detailed plans. They're actually working on the plans right now to get those kind of finalized. We'll get those in your hands next month or maybe a little bit before.
Yeah. And with redistricting moving forward, it'll be 21 seats for
Yes.
supervisors.
Excellent point. You saw there was a 2 different modifications on that. So we'll be definitely working towards the 21 supervisor seats.
Okay, good. Thank you. Action items, resolution, authorization to transfer prosecution of CHIPS, Child in Need of Protective Services, cases from the district attorney's office to the county attorney's office. Is there any questions on that? We discussed this last meeting, correct? That this really streamlines the system in helping the parents get what they need immediately in the children. And our county attorney has graciously requested the additional workload to do that. So I'll entertain a motion. Supervisor Mary, Supervisor Kelly, any discussion on this? Seeing none, all in favor, signify by saying aye. Aye. Supervisor Mahalik? He's yes, okay. All right. I'd like to, we've got a few citizens here wanting to weigh in on the 2020 resolution regarding Assembly Bill 409 and 413. So I'll entertain a motion to bring that up. Supervisor Bossert, Supervisor Kelling. I'm going to begin with offering an amendment that you have on your desk, and if we could put it up on the screen. There we are. It's up on the screen. You guys have everyone has a copy of it in front of them. I make the motion to amend. Is there a second by Supervisor Bossert? Any discussion on the matter? You know, you make your amendments afterward. Yeah. Supervisor Bossert.
So speaking to the amendment.
Wait till
Am
you're-
I on? Okay, so speaking to the amendment kind of shifts our focus to being more focused on legislation that is pushing for transparency in curriculum. It empowers parent groups to be able to see what their kids are being taught. And in my mind, that's a good thing. The value, though, was further affirmed last week. I was at a meeting where several parent groups from the community were there. Many of these had started looking at curriculum. One of the groups found that one piece of curriculum, one of their overarching goals in that curriculum was to fundamentally change the relationship between children and their parents. Now, that's the kind of thing parents need to know about, because government should not be in the business of changing the relationship between parents and their children, except in cases where social services is involved because of an abuse or neglect instance. They should not be fundamentally changing on a global basis the relationship between children and their parents. So having that transparency, that was key for the parents finding out that this curriculum, and that's what their goal is. So I think I definitely support the focus on transparency, and I would encourage everybody to vote for this amendment. All right, thank you.
Thank you.
I will be supporting this amendment. I have had a few people contacting me regarding why we specifically aren't naming CRT. And I think what's important to understand is that it goes by many names. And what happens is when you specifically name something, they just change the name, move to something else. No, it's SEL. No, it's REQ. It's ABC. It's ZMX. And so every time you're sitting, you're playing whack-a-mole rather than getting down to the intent. And the intent here is to make sure that we're teaching our children proper history, proper math, proper science, and not teaching them that one race is inherently superior to another race or sex, all the things that we named here one at a time. So that's why we're not specifically keying in on CRT, but rather you coming at it in a blanket approach where we're saying anything that you try to call it or whatever arose by any other name is still a rose. We know what you're doing. We're not going to support it. We want to see this kind of stuff thrown out of our schools. We don't want this taught to our children. So that's why we're approaching it from this direction. And hopefully that the people who do support this resolution can see the wisdom of that. Thank you.
Okay, see no other comment. If you could scroll down towards the end, Mary, good. I'll just read it out loud. Where the changes are, obviously we are supporting a different bill that gives parents the tools to hold school districts accountable. So what's changing there is whereas it is incumbent upon government and schools to have open and transparent access to information, and that schools should provide access to the curriculum, learning and teaching methods to enable open and honest discussion of said curriculum, learning and teaching methods to the public. And whereas 2021 Senate Bill 463 and 2021 Assembly Bill 488 compels school districts to provide open and transparent access to curriculum, learning materials, and teaching methods. And whereas 2021 State Senate Bill 463 and 2021 Assembly Bill 488 gives district residents the tools to hold school boards and school districts accountable for the curriculum, teaching methods, and materials used to educate the children of those districts. So now therefore it be resolved by the Washington County Board of Supervisors, this board supports the fundamental right of openness and transparency in our government and schools, supports the principle that all people are created equal, and repudiates the principles taught in critical race theory. So it's a shift from, as County Executive Showman so eloquently stated at our last meeting, legislating morality, which is more left to parents and the leaders of the community than to government. So I see we have some citizens that are wanting to speak towards this. Could you come up and just give your name? And if you could keep your comments to 3 minutes, short. Okay, you got a shorty? Okay, good, thank you.
Okay.
If you
I'm
speak right into the microphone so everyone can hear you.
I'm Lois Schneider, live in I'm a concerned grandmother and I live in Washington County. These are the reasons I oppose the critical race theory. First of all, critical race theory is a Marxist ideology intended to divide the races. It is an indoctrination process about diversity of gender, skin color, sex education, sex discrimination, in which hatred are learned behaviors. It is racist and dangerous. It teaches children to hate themselves because of their skin color, and that white children are worse than Black children. It teaches them to hate America. Our children now see themselves as equals in sports and other activities in school. Let's teach our children to exceed in reading, writing, and math. Also, how our government was founded and the history of the past that made America this great nation. I hope you will not support critical race theory being taught in schools. Thank you.
Thank you. Are any other citizens or wanting to speak? Anybody else? Okay, all right. And no other comments by the executive committee. We'll vote on this. Oh, I'm sorry. Supervisor Dice.
I am glad that this topic was adjourned from our last meeting because it gave us time to read these proposed bills and formulate our opinions. For the benefit of the public, we were looking at a resolution supporting two proposed bills, Senate Bill 409 and AB 413. But those two bills were directed at prohibiting race and sex stereotyping in instruction provided to students in the University of Wisconsin system, such as our local two-year UW system school and the technical college system, such as MPTI. They do not address local school districts or charter schools, which the two bills we are now supposedly is out there for support does. So that's one of the big changes I see between the initial bills and these two, as well as the transparency issue, because in the first two bills we were looking at, there was only one sentence in either of those bills that talked about course syllabuses and including any revisions to syllabuses were to be posted on the institution's website. That was the only sentence in either of those bills that dealt with transparency. So the two that you are now proposing take care of those issues. They deal with school districts, they deal with charter schools, and they deal with transparency. As I stated at our last meeting, I don't disagree. And then the other comment, as far as these two bills, critical race theory is never mentioned. Those words are never used in either of those bills. But the ideas that are there, I don't disagree with that. I believe there should be transparency. I believe that we are all God's children. I enjoy the wording in the proposed resolution. I understand why, and I hope that the majority of our citizens believe in this as well. My only concern, and I'm looking for somebody to argue with me or tell me why it should be the county board to act on this. And, you know, we're not a school board. We're not, well, some of us have our parents that have children in school. But to me, that's more of a personal thing. I would have a discussion with my legislator on this. I'm just not convinced that it's the county board's role to take a position on this. So if somebody can give me good reasons why you think it should be, please speak up. Let Let me hear this. Convince me that this is the county board's role.
Thank you. Oh, sorry, Supervisor Mary.
Thank you Supervisor Dice. I've also had shared some of these same thoughts about why are we doing this? And really what this board is, what we're promoting here tonight is transparency through a legislative act. And we're not saying we're after the school boards or anything, but what this does by legislation through the state requires full transparency such that school boards can't just push parents aside and say, we know better than you what's going to be taught to your kids. And what we're doing here tonight by endorsing this, if we do, and then take it to the full board for their endorsement, is to support the legislation that requires transparency at the local school board level and at the local school level, and also provides parents recourse against being shut out and being just pushed aside and saying, no, we know better than you do, when in fact, they may know more about teaching, but I think the parents know better than the school boards do about what's good for their children. Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah. This resolution is supportive of a Senate bill and Assembly bill to hold school districts accountable. I mean, to me, Freedom of Information Act should apply to everyone. And it appears that many of the school districts and school boards are deciding upon themselves that they don't need to do this. The Wisconsin Institute for Law and Liberty made requests of a number of school districts for information about their curriculum, teaching methods, and materials. Most of the bills for that were $100. Dane County charged them $7,500 for the same materials and waited 6 months to even respond to the open records request. So I think this helps our citizens to hold government accountable, which I think is what citizens' jobs are to do, you know, to hold us accountable, each and every one of us. And I think, quite honestly, if our county attorney acted in that manner, some of these school boards we would be sued quite frequently. But we're open and honest, and we're just saying that school boards need to do that too. And this gives parents those tools to do that. And I love it that people are getting involved, that people are standing up for their rights and standing up for, you know, I mean, school, you know, I liken it to this, like, go, you know, parents go away. We just know better. You know, what is all this about? And, you know, it's positive. We're not being the party of no. We're not saying no. We're just saying, you know what, you need to be open and honest about what you're doing. And I think that's what this does. So thank you. County Executive Shulman.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And thank you, Supervisor Dice. This concern that you just articulated was a large part of what we were going over, I think, last month. And just to touch on last month, this is a very emotional topic. It doesn't take much to get a room full of people very ramped up and very red-faced. And so I've had conversations with some of you about that discussion last month. But I think there's a really fine line between political advocacy and legislative advocacy. And last month's resolution was flat out political advocacy. I mean, we have nothing to do with the UW system or technical college, short of owning that building that they occupy. So this bill, or this resolution, excuse me, is much more finely crafted. And I'll point specifically to page 2, line 23, which is up on the screen. And I'll just read it for the people who can't see it. Here's a really good example of how we Chairman Creefall pulled language out that was strictly political and tried to make it more legislatively targeted. The last few words there were repudiates the teaching of critical race theory. That's advocacy, political advocacy to stop doing something. Remember book burnings back in the 60s and 70s and even early 80s? That's attempting to get people to stop something. Well, that's all fine and good when it's your issue, but when the flip side of the coin is to repudiate the teaching of creationism and you're a Christian, I imagine you'd have a much different opinion about repudiating the teaching of anything. And so instead, I think wisely, the chairman amended that language to say repudiate the principles taught in critical race theory. To Supervisor Kelling's point a moment ago, we're calling out what it is. It's the principles themselves. It's not, you can call it whatever you want as you went through the alphabet. But the bottom line is that is very much more targeted to a legislative approach rather than a purely political approach, which is what we were doing before and which frankly I wouldn't support. This legislatively empowers people to do what they need to do politically. And it's not the board doing the politicking. It's now, if this passes, ultimately signed by the governor, which let's admit it probably won't be, but if it were, it gives parents the ability to do whatever politicking they feel like they need to do in their local community. And we're not taking anything more than a stand than to say we repudiate principles that are taught in CRT. So I think it does a nice job of trying to thread the needle. It's as it is right now, I can certainly support it. And I hope that answers your question to some extent. It's certainly some of the same questions I got out in the community on why are we even stepping into the fray on this issue. But there are a multitude of people throughout this county who in several school districts and parochial schools are having these discussions and debates. And if we can help give them the tools to exercise their democratic rights, then I think we have an obligation to do that.
Thank you. Supervisor Dice.
Thank you, and thank you for your comments, Josh. Since this resolution, the first time I saw it was when I sat down here this afternoon. So-
It was emailed, so.
Okay, well, I today,
When do we email it? Today.
yeah. So I look at my emails in the morning. It probably came later than that.
Okay.
So anyway, I just scanning this wording. I appreciate the wording that's in here now. I feel it's much better than the initial one that we had looked at last month. So I guess I will, I'm okay with what is being said here. I like the verbiage. And I think the comments that were made have given me a little more there's more for me to think about
Okay.
in a positive way. So thank you for that.
Okay. Thank you. Okay, we're going to be voting on the, see no more further. Supervisor Mahalik, I forgot this, or can't see you right now. Do you have any comment?
No, I'm fine. Thank you. I've already set my vote into via text to Mary.
Okay. Okay, we'll, yeah, we're voting to the amendment. All in favor, signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? Okay, the amendment passes. So now we will go back to the resolution. Are there any further discussion on resolution? Supervisor Bossert.
I have two proposed amendments that I've sent into the county attorney and county clerk, and I've put copies on your desk. I'm going to first propose amendment number 2, which would amend page 2, lines 29 and 30 of the amended resolution. It would add to the end of it. So it would say, be it further resolved that copies of this resolution be furnished to each member of the Wisconsin Assembly, state, and governor. And then it would add, as well as every school board member, school superintendent, town board member, village board member, and city council member in Washington County. I think it's important for local governments to know our position on transparency in education and in the training of government employees. So I'm going to put that motion forward first and look for a second of it. I assume that would, whatever the county clerk normally does. Do you normally mail out copies or email them? Okay, so it sounds like they email them,
I
so.
mean,
yep.
that's less, I mean,
Mr. Chairman?
Go ahead, Supervisor Mahalik.
Thank you. May I make a suggestion, which I think would work if it's amenable to our county executive, because I think it's his newsletter. Why don't we just publish it in the newsletter that we're putting out and not have to incur any additional cost?
that newsletter's already out. I got mine yesterday. And aren't they quarterly?
Quarterly, correct.
Oh,
Are we in a rush?
I don't think so.
Well, there you go.
Yeah, we won't get the county board until September. Yeah, okay. Yeah, we could do that. Is there a second? Then we don't need it. Okay. All right, you,
Why don't we do that? I'll withdraw that motion.
can we withdraw the amendment or? Okay,
Yeah,
okay.
yep,
So
Okay.
that
and I'm
amendment
happy with
dies.
that. Then amendment number 1. And I know this one may strike up some controversy, but I've had numerous constituents ask that we make sure we define those principles that we don't want in primary education, secondary, and post-secondary. So amendment number 1 would amend page 2 after line 24. It would say, be it further resolved that Washington County supports the concept that the following should be prohibited from elementary, secondary, and post-secondary education, along with employment training for government employers. And then it's got 8 points. The first would be prohibit teaching that one race or sex is inherently superior to another race or sex. The second, prohibit teaching that an individual, by virtue of the individual's race or sex, is inherently racist, sexist, or oppressive, whether consciously or unconsciously. Third one is prohibit teaching that an individual should be discriminated against or receive adverse treatment because of the individual's race or sex. The fourth one, prohibit teaching that individuals of one race or sex are not able to and should not attempt to treat others without respect to race or sex. Fifth one, prohibit teaching that an individual's moral character is necessarily determined by the individual's race or sex. Sixth one, prohibit teaching that an individual, by virtue of the individual's race or sex, bears responsibility for acts committed in the past by other individuals of the same race or sex. Seventh one, prohibit teaching that an individual should feel discomfort, guilt, anguish, or any other form of psychological distress because of the individual's race or sex. And the last one, prohibit teaching that systems based on meritocracy or traits such as hard work ethic are racist or sexist, or are created by individuals of a particular race to oppress individuals of another race. And just to be clear, all 8 of these points are in 3 of the proposals that are before both the Assembly and Senate. I know there are objections that were expressed last month to some of the mechanics of those bills, but I think.
I'm sorry, Supervisor Bossert, we need a second before discussion ensues.
All right.
I'll second it.
Okay,
All right. So to continue what I'm saying, I think these principles define exactly what County Executive Showman was speaking to. They define those principles that are taught in critical race theory and those principles that really don't have a place in government or in education. So I'm going to encourage everybody to consider voting for this amendment as well. I think this makes it a stronger resolution and kind of defines things better for us. Thank you.
Sure. And I look at these and I agree with the premise of each and every one of them. But again, here we are prohibiting where we should be giving people the tools necessary to fight exactly what you put on here. It becomes us legislating again morality. And my morality agrees with every one of these, but I think that puts us into a different perspective when it comes to the resolution as amended. So even though I agree with every bullet point, I'm going to vote no on the amendment. Thanks. Supervisor Kelly.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Also, I look at that the same way. Prohibiting teaching it, I think is a little bit problematic. It does make our original resolution more political, which I do believe the county executive would not favor. I won't put words in his mouth, but it seems like that's what he just said. I agree 100% with each one of these bullet points. I mean, they are absolutely correct. And if there were, I think, read into the record here today, I think it really goes a lot towards what we are trying to accomplish with this resolution. But there again, it does turn it into a political document rather than what we're trying to do, which is empower the people to take a stand on their own school districts and stuff like that, because I think transparency does that. And it also kind of goes towards what Ms. Dice was saying, a question of jurisdiction a little bit too. We want free and open government, and that is our charge as county elected officials to make sure that we're get to offer that to the people, but not necessarily putting our ideas of how teaching and government should be in place of other people's ideas. So I can at this time support this only because I really believe that we need to go with the transparency aspect of this first. So, but thank you for it.
Supervisor Schleif.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'm in the same boat. I strongly believe all these tenets are correct, but it's not our job to prohibit what's taught in schools. It's our job to support the transparency and not politicize it, as Executive Showman so eloquently said. So I won't be supporting this.
Thank you. Supervisor Dice.
I do note that all of these items are in the first two bills that we had before us last time. So they are in the proposed legislation. If anything, it's just uses the word teaching, where I know in those bills, they also use the words advocates, acts upon, or promotes any of these items. So I agree with our chairman's comments and the others as well. I'd like to stay away from this, as I also agree with everything that's listed here, but I don't think it's appropriate in our resolution. Thank you.
Thank you. Supervisor Mahalik.
I agree. I can't vote for it. To quote someone who was served on this board for quite some time, Mark McEwen, leaders lead. Chris, thank you for bringing this forward. I would hope that you would realize that sometimes you got to take a stand. Oh, I'd never want an abortion, but I can't write a law that would take somebody else's right away. Bull feathers. Sometimes you got to stand up for what's right. Every one of you who spoke said, this is right, this is right, this is right. I'm not going to vote for it. How disappointing. I'm going to support it. Thanks, Chris.
Thank you. Supervisor Mary.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'll agree with the majority of the discussion here tonight. And basically, what is in the First Amendment is redundant to what we're already trying to accomplish.
Thank you. Seeing no further comment, we'll vote on this amendment. All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, nay. Nay. Who were you? You're nay? Okay. And you were a nay? Okay. So it's 5-2. Right, okay. Okay, amendment fails. Back to the original resolution 2021. Do we have a number on that one? No, we don't have a number till county board. We'll vote on this one as amended. All in favor, signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? I didn't hear Tim.
Oh, aye.
Aye, okay, thank you. Motion passes unanimously, goes to the county board in September. Next on the agenda is resolution for comprehensive economic development strategy SEDS. Motion to Supervisor Schleif, Supervisor Mary. You can't get it up. Okay, oops, sorry, maybe. Question for Sewer Pack before I give a statement to begin. Ozaki and Waukesha County, you can come on up and go by the mic. Why don't you go by this one so we can actually hear you. So both Waukesha and Ozaki County have accepted the document and are incorporating it into their comprehensive plan going forward, correct?
So
Any deletions or by any of those, either of those two?
I don't believe so, no. So just to clarify, Ozaki County adopted the resolution, the draft one that was sent along. Waukesha County is the one that chose to do accept and basically include the pertinent sections into their comprehensive plan when it's next updated.
Okay, all right. All right, I'm going to give a statement. This statement's going to be attached to our resolution and copy sent to both Sewer Pack and M7. So the comprehensive economic development strategy SEDS for the M7 Southeastern Wisconsin states that the purpose of the document is to bring together members of the public and private sectors to develop a strategy-driven plan for regional economic development. This document must furnish a consensus-driven and cohesive roadmap for economic development across the region. This document should diversify and strengthen our regional economies. Projects and opportunities must be prioritized. This document should provide the framework for establishing an EDA economic development district. The Washington County Board of Supervisors do support a consistent strategy developed to benefit the M7 region. However, a significant portion of said document dwells upon issues unrelated to economic development. This document should not be a means for setting social priorities. This document should not specify values and how those values are to be implemented. Most importantly, this document should not be an instrument of party politics, and far too much of this document does just that. While these are important issues, they should not be integrated into an economic development strategy document. These are issues that should be addressed by the elected officials. It is essential to Washington County that these economic strategies leverage regional resources for local benefit, coordinate local benefit with the region for maximum positive impact, and enhances Washington County's competitive prospects for EDA funding support. This document should identify and promote our region's strengths to reflect our region's favorability in an effort to foster increased development. Washington County supports incorporating said strategies that are appropriate into our comprehensive plans, partnering with the region on cross-border development activities, securing EDA funding for eligible priority projects, and as a means to advance Washington County's goal of encouraging economic growth and vitality. The SEDS document was not intended to be a political statement. It's an economic strategy document. The politicization of this document risks creating unintended consequences and could very well negatively disrupt consensus around otherwise shared values. We could lose important planning outcomes as we get lost in the political noise. It has potential to create the perception of loss of local control. Worse, it has the potential to transform a regionally cohesive strategy into a politically purposed instrument. As such, the Washington County Board of Supervisors rejects the politicization of the SEDS document. We understand the document's planning value, but emphasize that M7 and sewer PAC reserve political matters to the purview of the elected officials and not regional plans. We will employ the SEDS planning components appropriate to the execution of local development and will participate in regional projects important to Washington County. Washington County recognizes that attracting the workforce sufficient to fuel future economic growth occurs when communities honor and embrace the multifaceted backgrounds new residents bring with them. Doing so adds important vitality to that which already makes us great. Successfully engaging these values necessarily means, however, preserving local determination around how best to integrate differing perspectives on and experiences with equity in our communities. The SEDS must thus focus on guiding strategy and planning, not politics. See the thing, politics coming over and over and over again. The Washington County Board of Supervisors does hereby support the formation of an economic development district for the southeastern Wisconsin region, which would align local, county, and regional economic development efforts to carry out the strategies of the SEDS. The Washington County Board of Supervisors reject the political nature of the document and recommend, was demand, but I put recommend, that M7 and sewer PAC remove the political elements that are not pertinent to economic development. And I'll open it up for further discussion. Oh, do we get? Yeah, we got a second. Yeah. So open it up for discussion. Supervisor Mary.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. It's apparent that the comments we made at this gathering last month had no effect on the proposal being considered here again tonight. And while Chairman Creefall has written a nice letter, I'm guessing will have as much impact as a sneeze on a windy day. Acknowledged for a moment and totally dismissed. Well, they didn't like it. Too bad. And then he will go on with their bullying tactics to drive through what they want. It's apparent that those who drafted this report have an agenda to build politics into what should be discussion on economic development. And they don't care if we object. They have their agenda and they're going to force it into everyone and anyone, despite what we want for Washington County, despite what we think is right for Washington County. I am told that if we don't go along with this, we will be criticized as being racist and against promoting equity. Never mind that we want to promote equality of opportunity for all, and equality in the distribution of federal and other funds, and equality for any and all who want to live, work, and play in Washington County, of bringing jobs and development and opportunity to the citizens of Southeast Wisconsin. While I fully support the need to leverage economic resources for local development, let's take the politics out of it. I strongly object to so much of what is contained in this report and think it is just plainly wrong to interject so much equity and race into it. I'm also tired of hearing all about Milwaukee's problems and how this area of the country is most racially divided in the country. Milwaukee always cries it has no money, yet it spent $128 million on a streetcar that no one rides because it goes nowhere. Now they want to spend $330 million more to expand the route of Mayor Baird's trolley. And the silly thing is, it will cost more to shut it down than let it be sitting empty. Can you imagine the hundreds of jobs that could be created in Milwaukee with that much money? The retail stores those jobs would support, the bus routes that could be expanded to bring workers from the city out to jobs in areas like Germantown. Where is this in the sewer PAC proposal? Or am I being racist for questioning this because it involves Milwaukee? I haven't yet decided how I'm going to vote on this. I'm looking to other points of view and discussion here tonight. But I'm sadly disappointed that our thoughts and wishes on this apparently mean nothing to the other bodies involved. I'm told that if we vote against accepting this report, there could be repercussions against the county. I guess equity is a one-way street. Thank you, sir.
Supervisor Kelly.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. This is really disappointing to have this become as political as it has. And I agree with everything Mr. Mary and Mr. Creefall have both stated. I think they are right on target. This doesn't belong here. This makes a political football out of desperately needed jobs for people who are certainly the most vulnerable in our communities. Nobody disagrees that we want to have equal opportunity for everyone, regardless of race, sex, or any other thing. This document, though, the way it is written, I can't really support it. I would probably support taking it to the board. But I pretty much would think that this thing will probably fail at the board level. I don't see this passing. I'm a realist. Because it's doing something that it was never designed to do. Social engineering is left for politics. Economic engineering is something that SERPAC should be doing. And this is, I think, way outside the purview of SERPAC. And I have great respect for SERPAC and the work that they've done in the past. And I understand that this is under marching orders, probably from the governor himself. That would not surprise me, and is being used as a political tool. But again, for Washington County, I can only speak for myself, I guess. And I will say that, yeah, I can't support this as it's written. And I don't want the people who actually need these grants and funding to necessarily go without. I will do anything that I can to fight for them and make sure that they continue to receive the funding. So we'll have to see how this shakes out. But this is pushback. I want you to understand. And while I might just be the vice chairman of some little rinky-dink board, okay, I like to think that somebody's got to make a stand somewhere. And, and I'm hopeful that we in Washington County will once again lead the way against this type of doctrine. Thank you.
Okay, I feel like if we don't push back against this, every future plan we see from Sewer PAC, which is not, how to put it, the plans you put out are a collaboration from all these different stakeholders, including the city of Milwaukee and Milwaukee County. And they've ingested a lot of politics in it. You're just a messenger, I get that. But if we don't push back against this, every future plan, whether it's transportation or land use, it's going to be the same thing, heavily politicized again. So I think we have to push back against this. And I'm still a no vote on this. Thank you.
Okay. Like I said in my statement, yeah, I'll get you next. We, as county board, understand the benefits of having a district, and I know we're not the biggest benefactor of it, but Milwaukee kind of drives, unfortunately, drives our economies, right? That's kind of the central location. A question for you, Executive Order 59, you familiar with that from the governor? Okay. So the original version of this did not include at least as much of the politics as I understand. Went back for revisions. Can you kind of explain the process of how that happened and how you guys as Sewer PAC were directed to redraft that, including that type of language that is frankly pretty offensive when you really think about it?
Sure. Yeah, happy to talk about that. So the original document that went out was the draft document for public review and comment. We received quite a bit actually of comment on the equity pieces of the original draft, including encouragement for more. We had some stakeholders that were pretty strongly advocating for that as well. In the period that it was out for public comment, EDA, the Economic Development Administration, which is the entity that controls the grants related to this document.
That's a
really-
federal, it's
Yep,
federal.
sorry, U.S. Department of Commerce
Yep.
entity. They released new priorities that made it clear that equity was the #1 priority of EDA for the next 3 to 4 years at least. And so that is another driver of the repositioning of the document, was to align, since we are competing for those federal grants, to make sure that the document aligned with the federal priorities that were stated. I will note, if I may, Chairman, take just a minute. We certainly heard the feedback last time, and we are not trying to ignore it. The challenge is having a regional document that is in motion in multiple boards at once. And so the feedback, if another remedy is determined, we'll try to accommodate that. At this point, the feedback, this is a document we do every 5 years with M7, and really assisting M7 in completing this document every 5 years. And so the feedback that is received and was received at the previous meeting is certainly something we as a staff have taken to heart and will plan to consider the next time this document is updated, and include and do a better job of discussing with all the regional partners as part of the formation of the document. Recognizing the feedback that was received last time, it was difficult given how much motion had already happened across the count or across the region in other counties. It wasn't something we could pull back or modify at that point. So I just wanted to acknowledge your comments, Supervisor Marion, that I hope everyone knows Sewer PAC certainly recognizes its advisory role, that local governments have the authority, particularly in elements like this, and that we do sincerely appreciate all the feedback we get from the 7-member counties. So.
Did you receive any other feedback such as this from, let's say, Ozaki or Waukesha County?
So none, as I think I said this last time, none as stridently, I will say, as has been expressed here. We did hear some concerns though from some supervisors in both counties. Yep.
Okay. And one last question. If the Washington County Board voted this down, what are the repercussions to the district? Can you explain how that works?
So if this is voted down today or at the board meeting in September, from an immediate action, as I hope I explained at the last executive committee, is that the 2 areas in Washington County that are eligible for these funding grants without there being an economic development district would not be eligible for those funds. Regarding the economic development district status itself, we don't yet have a defined path forward on that. There's nothing saying Sewer PAC is the district. There's nothing saying M7 is the district. There's nothing saying that a separate entity wouldn't be the economic development district. So that's something we still need to explore with the counties, starting with Christian and his fellows on the Regional Economic Partnership Committee. So I would presume that there would be an opportunity, if it was to be voted down, to come back to the county board at that point, such that a district was being created, to likely adopt the board creation of that district, if that is the route that the region decides to go.
Okay.
Did that answer your question?
Yeah, so I'm just interested in that. I guess if we voted no, it would negatively impact the creation of the district.
It would make
And
it more challenging, yes.
Yeah,
Yep.
and that would eliminate opportunities for Washington County development. And to avail ourselves of some of that federal funding.
Right.
So by taking a stand to completely disregard, rather than taking a stand and calling out what the document shouldn't be saying, and saying that because of our citizens and the development for Washington County, we would, okay. Yeah, we basically cut off our nose to spite our face, to put it mildly. So sometimes I've talked to people about, it's almost a catch-22 for us. We disagree with it. We talked about it last time. It just divides us even more. We want to, since 2008, we've just been getting worse. We're getting more and more divisive in our country. And I just, there's got to be some way we can start getting back together and having conversation. Used to be, even in government, you could disagree, but then you go out and have a drink afterwards. Now it's like everybody hates everybody. And I think this drives it even further. If we concentrate on our differences, why don't we concentrate on what makes us a team? We're all part of the human race, for crying out loud. Why don't, opportunity. Let's get opportunity. Let's make it so that everyone can have that same opportunity. They really do. There's just some things we need to do to help facilitate it, and I think we're looking at doing things like that. But, documents like this, just, boy, oh boy, I tell you what, if we're ever going to get together, this is what we got to stop, and then I know you're stuck with what you got, and the feds tell you what you got to put in. And, elections have consequences. So let me say it louder. The people that didn't like those mean tweets, this is what you got. Thanks. Supervisor Dice.
Christian is here. Do you have any input on this? Do you want to share your thoughts with us, please?
First of all, thank you for the invitation to speak and offer a couple of comments. I do want to correct one point. I don't think that you intended to say this, but or convey this. So I do want to make sure we're clear that there was opportunity earlier in the process to make some adjustments. As soon as EDWC saw the new draft that day, I believe even, we reached out to Sewer Pack and said, we see problems here and what can we do to get out in front of it? So I just want to make clear that as soon as EDWC became aware that there were these changes, we saw and anticipated the kinds of challenges that we're experiencing today. So we are certainly wanting to work hard and be a part of that solution, but there was some runway. So let's not have illusions that there weren't opportunities to engage this, potentially make some changes in the process. The thoughts that I have, and I just want to offer, make sure you've got all the data points when you make your decision. Obviously, you're in that seat, you've been elected, you've got the hard job of actually making a decision. Our job is to make sure that you've got all the data points that you need to make that decision. A couple of additions that I would make. First of all, we talk about the politicization and how this document politicizes the planning matters. It's already politicized. The politicization has been done by the very introduction of those revisions, much less the adoption of the document. The politics is already here. You're in the middle of it, and unfortunately, you've got to navigate it now by virtue of it being introduced in those revisions. So while we can't choose what's happened to us, we can choose how to respond, which is why several of the points that have been made in your communication are really powerful. Not the least of which is the fact that the planning components and purposes of that document are not just valid, but potentially offer material benefit to the economic development mission and ultimately your constituents, such as the economic development district benefits of forming a district. Since working here in Wisconsin, I have not, well, actually, that's not true. I was a part of a development district, I believe, and when I was with Fond du Lac EDC, but down in Illinois, worked many, many years within an economic development district and saw the benefits that accrued to the communities by having that district. The funds ebbed and flowed depending on various administrations, but there were always funds that were available, and having that entity to be able to drive and prioritize projects and lift up this region versus other regions when you were talking scarce resources was extremely valuable. Also, as it relates to grant potential, while there's no guarantees that any community will receive an EDA grant, being included in the district and being included in this plan makes it possible to have those grants, including those communities that may not quite qualify on the basis of distress criteria. You can be inserted in grants by virtue of being a part of a larger project or a larger program, provided you're a part of the district. So unfortunately, there is a cost, an opportunity cost to making a decision to not be a part of the district. If we're using metaphors, since it seems like we're liberally using them today, I would say there may be a way to have your cake and eat it too on this. And part of that would be all in how you phrase your resolution. EDWC, and I can tell you our board did not meet at the regular scheduled board meeting, but I can anticipate what they would say had they met. We've had to reschedule their most recent board meeting. But had they met, they would have been equally upset with the politicization of the document, and we would have gotten another earful similar to what you have communicated. So EDWC in this county are completely aligned on the rejecting of the politicization of this document, and that could be stated in a resolution. You could state vociferously, underline, bold, underscore, use some of the wonderful language that you had to make very clear in your resolution that you reject those components of the SEDS, and that you support, however, the purposes that a SEDS should be about, the planning components, the integration, the many bullet points. I won't repeat what you just said, Mr. Chairman. And last but not least, in your resolution, state very clearly that you are not giving up local determination, local control, and that you will determine how to implement and execute the various components of the SEDS, the county and the local governments, to be specific, that you retain that right. In doing that, you're essentially not formally approving the SEDS per se, but you are approving those planning components of the SEDS and your desire to participate in the district. I believe that that would satisfy the requirements necessary to proceed and not give up or lose or have an opportunity cost in your choice. So through that careful wording, you can have your cake and eat it too, but more importantly, you can take that stand that is important and that we would concur that is necessary to be taken.
I knew you'd have an answer to that.
Supervisor Mary.
Just so I understand the procedures tonight, if we vote this negative, vote against it, it dies here tonight, or does it still go to the board?
Yeah, it could still go to the board by the chair. I think this is a decision that we can make here tonight, but I think it's up to the entire board to actually approve it. So I think this one is important enough that if we decide to vote no, I think it still should go before the board. So that would be what I would do.
I would vote to support this tonight for the purpose of getting it to the entire board. Otherwise, I'm totally against it.
Okay. Right. Supervisor Schleif. I'm sorry, Supervisor Mahalik has his hand up. I didn't see that. Go ahead, Supervisor Mahalik. You need to unmute.
Sorry, in Supervisor Murray's comments, he said he would vote for it to get it to the whole board, but you're saying because the chair, and I'm aware of the fact that the chair can put it forward even with a negative vote, I think that I'm going to be voting against it, knowing that it will go to the front, in front of the entire county board, because unless we can do everything that Kristen Cheshlock just said, I would be against it. If he is sure that we can retain all of what he claims we can retain regarding how we implement it, and that we would be open to the benefits of it, but not have to go through some of the ridiculousness of the equity, which is equal outcome, versus equality, which is equal opportunity, which is what I think we thoroughly stand for here in Washington County. regardless of what we teach. It's important, I believe, that we are a part of this only if we maintain that individualism that obviously Washington County has and is very proud of. I think that's something that needs to be very much put in forward. But seeing that we do have the opportunity to make a statement here, I would encourage you to vote no because of the fact that, again, what Christian brought up, which was the feedback that they gave Sewer PAC, the feedback that we gave them at the last meeting, and the fact that, and I'm not talking about the gentlemen that are here. I realize that they're messengers. They're not the policy wonks that actually put the wording out, but those who did decided to go the Milwaukee route, which tears my heart out being originally from Milwaukee, that they're going to go the equity route rather than the equality route, which is, and make it an overtly political document. We have the opportunity here to cast a vote to show them that that's something we're not going to put up with from an executive committee level, and then making sure that, again, what Christian brought forward. Remember, we took a vote before on something for those who've been around long enough, when they did the stadium vote. We voted 30-0 to not participate in taxing the folks for Milwaukee County Stadium. And we got dragged into it anyway and had to pay it. So, but we were able to get on record as a 30-0 vote for not increasing those taxes. Okay, well, we have the opportunity now, I believe, to send a similar message and to make especially the counties that were brought up, Ozaukee County and Washington County, take a real look at this thing. I think there are a few too many members who may have skimmed over it rather than actually did a deep read and understand exactly what they were voting for. I think had they done that and their constituencies became aware of it, they would certainly be singing a different tune. So at this level, I'm going to be voting against it only because I want it to go in front of the board. And then again, that it can be explained when it gets to the county board that we can indeed do what Christian brought forward, because then I would definitely consider voting for it. Thank you.
Well, I have a couple of questions of Christian. And County Attorney Stern and County Executive Shaw. Sorry to get step on your toes. Can we work together to reformulate the resolution to cover the points that you brought up, so that we basically say, yeah, we're gonna do what we need to do this without accepting? Can we work together to get that put together? Would we need to, in order to do that, would we need to postpone this to a meeting prior to the county board to debate and approve that? I don't think we can do that. I don't know if we can do that right now. What?
Can you bring it with the chair?
Bring it with the chair?
If you redraft the resolution, you take it straight to
I could.
No.
No? I can't do that? No? Okay. Because it started here. Right. Do that, correct?
If you take a vote on this tonight as it's written and vote no, and then decide to put it on the county board agenda anyway, which it is your authority to do that, this is the resolution that would have to go to the board. However, between now and then, Christian and I could work on something. And much like you did with the prior resolution today that addressed your CRT concerns, we could bring an amended version, and the board could take a look at that. You could bring that amendment. So you can certainly do it that way if you like.
You need to table it?
Similar to Supervisor Malik's comment, I was wondering, could they postpone it to the day of the county board meeting, and right before the
Yeah,
county
that's
board
what-
meeting,
that's what I asked, yeah.
take up the amendment?
You could do that.
Yeah.
If you're looking for an emotion, a motion, so moved.
Okay. All right, you guys still need to talk on it?
Well,
Okay, no, I mean, like, everybody who's lit it,
that's what I was gonna say. How do we
Yeah.
we were both going the
Fix
same
this,
direction
yeah.
you did.
yeah,
And I see Executive Director
so
Director Booth
basically,
nodding because it fits, right? Thank you.
so basically, we're kind of, your ideas along with the ideas here, get that into that resolution that tacitly maybe doesn't agree with it, but takes out what we do agree with and rejects what we don't agree with, and we can do that in our resolution. Okay,
At the end of the day, you have certain, and your local governments have statutory authorities that this document can't and would never supersede. And ultimately, it is a vision document of sorts that at most has influence over the types of EDA projects that get funded. That's the principal purpose of that document alongside of creating the development district. So in a way, you're stating something that is inherently true within law already. I'm not an attorney, so I won't play one on TV, but but that's ultimately your comfort
Mhm.
piece here. So really what you're doing is you're using your resolution to make your point.
okay, yeah. Supervisor Kelly.
So Brad, is this along the lines, I mean, just to pick your legal brain here, is this along the lines of the doctrine of the lesser magistrates then, where local control and unjust type law and stuff like that? I mean, is that how ultimately then we have this power to implement the grant the way we see, as long as it's, with federal law, which their suggestion is not federal law.
Right, of course. I mean, whatever the grant documents specify, you have to follow that clearly. But, beyond that, yeah, of course. I mean, the document is, I guess, a political document, right? What the law requires might be something different altogether, how you carry that out, what your obligations are once you get the grant.
Okay, if we draft the resolution to that effect, I think it has a higher effect on our consternation over the document, I guess, so. Did Chris, Supervisor Bossert, do you want to chime in, or? Okay, so we have a motion to postpone to September 8th. Is it September 8th, our meeting? Yeah, September 8th prior, and we'll have a document that meets more expectations then. So we have a motion and a second. Any further discussion on it? All in favor, signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? Any opposed? Okay, we'll postpone that prior to the county board meeting on September 8th.
So that will be a special executive committee meeting, correct? So the minutes reflect that correctly?
Meeting prior to the board so that we can, no, I think we should be able to get it done. Okay, thanks, guys. Sorry for all the slings and arrows. So, but you guys are tough, right?
Thank you.
Thanks. Okay, next on, well, let me cover the next meeting dates. So next meeting dates, Tuesday, August 24th at 4:30 PM. That's redistricting. We're going to have plans in place, 3 of them to take a look at. Due to our superlative GIS department. And Wednesday, September 15th at 4 PM and at September 8th at probably 5 o'clock, 5:15. Okay, I mean, Supervisor Mahalik, you'll have to run through your administrative committee meeting at warp speed.
Well, that'll be a challenge.
Okay, what? Okay, why don't we take a quick 2-minute break?
And thanks for interrupting my honey.
Sorry. Am I really?
Hey, Don? Don?
Go ahead, Tim.
Can I call you on your phone?
Sure, I got it right here.
Hey, all right. Hey, I have another meeting I'm supposed to be at 6 o'clock. Could I mute?
We're back in session. Oh. She can stay. Jody, you can stay. Oh, okay. Okay. Yeah, we gotta keep one door open partly at least. Just leave that, if we got one open, it's fine. I'll entertain a motion to convene into closed session pursuant to state statute. I gotta go through it, sorry. State statutes deliberating or negotiating and purchasing of public properties, investing in public funds, or conducting other specified public business whenever competitive or bargaining reasons require a closed session, specifically to consider proposals and the appropriateness thereof for the use of economic development Washington County revolving loan fund program. A motion. Second. Okay, we'll do a roll call vote. Aye.
Aye.